and we're going to begin with Visible Wireless. And they're owned by Verizon, and they are the first all-digital wireless carrier in the US. So meaning that no one ever even has to step inside a store. So how do they connect emotionally with consumers? Well, we have Pearl Servat. She is Visible's head of brand marketing, and Taylor Borman, the head of influencer marketing, and they're going to tell us all about it. Are you guys here? Let's get everyone going. And they really are finding ways. Yep, I see Taylor.
Hey guys.
And Pearl should be joining us, but I mean, just from my conversation with you guys, you're really connecting with people in an all digital world. And that's pretty amazing that you're being so successful with it. So we're excited to hear all about it. How are you guys doing anyway?
We're doing great. We're really excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, I was thrilled to have you guys, and just to really, this is something, I mean, everyone, with so much digital happening, it's really, it's making it more difficult to connect with consumers. So you don't need to hear from me anymore. That's what you guys are going to talk about. I'll leave it to you and go from there. So enjoy.
Thanks, Lisa. Awesome. Well, as Lisa was saying, I'm Taylor and this is Pearl. We're both with Visible. I lead our influencer marketing. Today, we're going to talk to you about our philosophies tied to humanizing a brand in an all digital ecosystem. So Pearl, let's kick things off by sharing a bit about Visible.
Absolutely, Taylor. Thank you. And thank you guys for having us and for joining today. I lead the brand marketing team here at Visible, and Taylor and I are looking forward to this conversation. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So for those of you who are not familiar, Visible is a Verizon company, and we're the first all-digital carrier in the US. We launched the company about 3 years ago, and in the short time that we've been around, we have been acknowledged and celebrated for our various marketing activities, for our technology business model. So it's been a really, really incredible experience to forge a completely unique and new path in the telco industry, but then also to get acknowledgement from tastemakers and thought leaders outside of the industry as well. And we are looking forward to this presentation with you today. So Taylor, I will now, or actually if we can go to the first slide, to the next slide, sorry about that. Thank you. So to share with you a little bit about who our members are and what our approach is, Visible's target consumer is between 18 to 34 years old. That's our sweet spot. We do have outliers on either end of that because the whole business model and the ecosystem is built on experience and also the notion of community. The product is really easy to sign up for, manage, and also understand. You know exactly what you're getting. It takes you minutes to sign up. We're obviously backed by Verizon, which is the most reputable carrier, I would say, in the world. So that's also a plus for us. And our approach, like I mentioned earlier, is all about communities. The brand was designed and built to fundamentally change consumers' experience in telco, but to also really pay attention to our immediate and extended communities. Who are our consumers? How are we engaging with them? How do we correspond with them? How do we approach them? Those are things that we are continuously thinking about and talking about and are very thoughtful about. And throughout this conversation today, we'll share with you some examples of our tactics and the strategies that we are continuing to implement to build a more meaningful connection with our communities. So now, Taylor, I will pass it back to you to give us an overview of Visible's digital marketing strategies.
Thanks, Pearl. So at Visible, 90% of our marketing tactics are digital. So therefore, we're always learning and applying what we're doing and what's working in real time through data and tons of social listening on our owned and non-owned channels. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So a bit about our social strategy. As you can see from this chart, we kind of have a funnel approach to targeting new and then existing members. For new prospects, we tap into boosted content with posts. rooted in brand awareness. So calling out who we are, what we're about, just to get users interested and learning more about Visible. From there, we do some more reinforcing of positive perception with social burst activations and purpose-driven initiatives. A few activations that we recently did, Pearl will actually drop these into the chat so you can look into them a little bit more, but we did one around Mother's Day. We're currently running a campaign around Mental Wellness Awareness Month. And then we did a really fun campaign called KEYNOTES, which was our 2020 holiday campaign. So really identifying strategic opportunities for a brand is a great way to build a community and really gain positive perception. Cool. And then also with our current social following, with our members and potential members, we engage with them with fun, relatable content, leaning into tech culture. We make a conscious effort to keep our feed from getting overly promotional, to keep our audiences interested. This helps build brand love and essentially leads to new members at Visible. Our voice is something that I really want to call out too. Visible social voice is very important to us. We make a really, really conscious effort to remain conversational, self-aware, playful, and honest in all of our social community responses. We found this really, really resonates with our audience, and our users truly love engaging with us. If you want to go over to the next slide. Thank you. So we have a continuous dialogue with our immediate and our extended communities online. Our response rate is around 30%, which is very high. We try to reach out to all of the members that we can to keep the conversation going. Additional ways we've helped to build a community on social includes sending members surprise and delight gifts. As you can see from these photos, we have one example of a gift that we sent out for Random Acts of Kindness Day. It's like a mug and a note saying, be kind to yourself. And then again, we have another send out to customers right next to it for one of our campaigns that we ran with Dan Levy called Unlimited Eyebrowsing, you know, tailoring onto the famous Levy eyebrows. It's kind of fun. So that was just kind of a way that you can see that we are really, you know, engaging with our users and bringing them into our conversations and campaigns. With the engagement that we put forth on social media, we've reached a net sentiment score of around 32%. Net sentiment score is the net value of opinions and feelings that members expressed on social media. We have a net sentiment of 32%, which is we're really proud of because, you know, in our field, in the telco field, we see a lot of other competitors being in the negatives. So to be around 32% is something we're really, really proud of. And we get to that because of our community focused content and collaboration. Other ways we build our community online is through our dedicated Reddit forums, where members regularly engage with who Visible is and what we're about. They also talk about Party Pay. Party Pay, I will also link in the comments just a little bit more information about that. Party Pay is essentially a plan that we have at Visible where you can, where you can have 4 or more people on your plan, all separate bills, separate everything, and you pay as low as $25 a month. So we have a lot of interest in that, and it's been a really great way to kind of bridge the gap and build communities with our members. We also have a Facebook group with our members for Party Pay where they can find other people to join their groups and request others to be a part of it. So social actually isn't the only place that we build communities. This also extends to our customer service channels. So I'll pass it back to Pearl to talk about our Care AI strategy.
Thanks, Taylor. So as Taylor mentioned, this humanized approach where we take very, very deliberate steps to ensure that we have meaningful connections with the folks that we're interacting with isn't just limited to our marketing channels. It is in fact woven into every layer of Visible, our product, our website, our CRM. So every single touch point where you interact with the brand, we're really deliberate about being thoughtful in our approach. And one of those places, which is one of the backbones of the company and how we show up for consumers, is through our customer care. And the team who lead that segment of the company recently actually combined AI capabilities with the human touch of our agents. And the reason for that is agility and speed, and the ability to respond to the folks who reach out to us very, very quickly and to problem solve around any issues that they may have as quickly as possible. And one of the results of that has been a decreased number of incoming calls. So now, as opposed to getting calls around issues and problems, we're getting a lot of calls or a lot of proactive incoming outreach about questions that people may have about the brand, about different product offerings and things like that. So that's just another example of how we put on an integrated and holistic lens when it comes to experience across the whole ecosystem of the brand, because when you think about it, almost every brand under the sun wants to be known for customer service and for an end-to-end uncompromised experience. But especially in an all-digital world in D2C, as we all know, it's really, really hard to maintain that and to keep it at the forefront of your strategies, because the world is changing very quickly. Consumer needs are always changing. Product strategy changes. Sometimes you're just not as thoughtful about it. But at Visible, these are deliberate conversations that we have about how does this resonate with the consumer? What does this experience mean to them? There is a lot of cross collaboration that happens across the company for thought partnership and sharing feedback. How does our messaging resonate? How does, the way that we show up for the consumer, how does that resonate for them? So because the brand was built on this notion of community and really, really showing up for our communities within the whole ecosystem, it is really sewn into the fabric of who we are, and it's integrated in all of our tactics and approach. So now, Taylor, I will pass it back to you to talk further to our strategies. Next slide, please.
Thank you. I was on mute. So I want to talk a bit about our influencer marketing strategy. So over the past 3 quarters, we've really revamped our influencer program and really changed the tone. We're focusing on leveraging communities and finding partners who are truly one-of-a-kind storytellers within their communities. So in 2020, in a year we all know very well, we all felt very isolated, and our online interactions and relationships kept us going and kept us connected. We followed influencers online who felt like friends, who made us laugh, who connected to our interests, who feel like us. So what we did is we turned up the volume on our always on content approach with influencers to reach more audiences, tap into niche communities, and really scaling to connect. We let partners really lead that narrative, using their authentic voice to reach out to their audience the best way possible. We did this because we know that if it's natural content for the partner's feed, it will really respond the best, and we'll get more eyeballs and people more interested in learning who Visible is. So with 2020, our overarching goal at Visible was for growth. We focused on messaging around who's Visible, why should I switch to Visible, and more about Party Pay. We really want to tap into online communities and to provide a safe space for our audience members to be themselves, to learn new things, to meet new people, and sometimes geek out over their favorite sports heroes. So I added that line in there because we actually did a collaboration a couple months ago with some pretty incredible sports athletes, excuse me, like Scottie Pippen and Austin Matthews. So we had a lot of excitement with that there too. Our partners would always tap into Visible's core pillars of community to shout out to their virtual BFF or take us into their kitchens and living rooms during a FaceTime call with their friends, really bringing you into their universe. So one thing I wanted to call out that was most important to us was the representation and inclusion is at the heart of every campaign that we do. It was our main priority with every campaign that we run to really champion diversity and diverse experiences. We spent over half of our total budget in Q4 and Q1 on diversity among partners. This includes race, gender, and other diversity indicators such as persons a part of the LGBTQIA+ community, persons with disability, body positive partners, and the list goes on and on. With this approach, we truly believe that we are making a difference and moving the needle forward in influencer marketing. So we're very, very proud of that. You can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So 2 campaigns we are especially proud of are these 2 impact-led campaigns, Visible Acts of Kindness and Invisible Stories. Invisible Stories is a campaign that leans into our brand pillar of connection and transparency. It's really a first-person narrative championing stories that often go unheard. So last year, during the onset of this campaign, conversations around Black Lives Matter movement and COVID-19 pandemic increased, and we're seeing that users online are continuously having these feelings of depression and isolation. Many people actually took to social media to vent and find a place for connection. This allowed us a really interesting chance to enter into these conversations in a subtle and sensitive way, to provide value and benefits for people out there and really build that community up. So with the idea that we can and should do more to share invisible stories from marginalized people, we handpicked partners from underrepresented communities across multiple categories to tell their stories online. So we had people talking about issues with race, sexual abuse, having a miscarriage. We broke those walls down and really had them tell their personal stories in their voice to kind of make their stories seen, which was a really, really beautiful and new thing to do. With that being said, bringing to light these stories, it really shined a light on Visible's core value of transparency. The campaign came to life on Instagram and Instagram stories, where the partners brought in strong messaging, and it's now an ongoing beat of our entire marketing strategy with influencers. So at the time of entry, when we first started this campaign, we gained over 15,000 shares of partner posts, which was huge. I think we started off with 8 partners that went live for our first round. So that was really exciting to see. The post gained over 5,000 comments, 97 of which were positive sentiment. This was huge for us. We also did see that over 41% of these comments were in direct reference to the campaign or the partner's story versus the general, like, I love you, and other comments you would see on an influencer post, showing that we're really like, we're hitting the nail on the head. We're getting attention. People want to hear more stories, which is really powerful. Several followers were even moved to tell their own stories, adding to our ongoing hashtag thread. With this, we're able to generate over 5 million actual impressions, reaching over 4.6 million accounts. We're still continuing to share invisible stories today. So we're really proud of that one. And then Pearl will speak to Visible Acts of Kindness a little bit.
Thanks, Taylor. So another campaign that we're incredibly proud of is called Visible Acts of Kindness. And this campaign also came to fruition in 2020. Like Taylor just touched on, as you guys all know, when the pandemic unfolded, there was a lot of confusion around, what is this thing? What does it mean for our lives? How long is it going to last? And it immediately showed the impact that it was going to carry with it. And at that time we were doing, we're a digital company, we're always doing social listening. And we noticed that there was a lot of vulnerability that was happening, and people were online talking about how they had just lost their jobs, or the huge impact that the pandemic was having on their family or their day-to-day lives. And you could tell that, a lot of this wasn't fully comfortable for a lot of people. So again, it came with a lot of the vulnerability. And through all the social listening that we did, we also noticed that while these stories were being shared across different social media platforms, strangers were showing up and commenting in different people's community sections or comments and saying, hey, just came across this thing that you shared. If you need anything, let me know. Or, hey, I'm really sorry, I'm going through the same thing, let's connect. So again, there was a lot of alignment that was happening, and we saw how people were showing up for each other. And we were observing the kindness, and we're like, you know what, let's create a campaign, all digital, social first, that really unifies all of these voices and truly brings these various communities together in an even more meaningful way. So in the course of about 24 hours, Visible Acts of Kindness was created, and the whole campaign was about encouraging and promoting stories and acts of kindness, both given and received. And the reason that the campaign was called that is because, as we all know, when it comes to kindness, no matter how small it is or how big it is, 100% of the time it's visible to the person who receives it, who's on the receiving end. So we wanted to really acknowledge that. So we launched it really overnight in a matter of 24 hours. We reached out to a bunch of different influencers and notable names. All of them were game to take part in this with us. And we partnered with influencers in the culinary sector, lifestyle, tech, a few folks who have really big names in various regions like New York and LA. But ultimately, it was all about aligning ourselves with people who walk the walk when it comes to impact, and people whose voice and actions really resonate with their own communities. So it wasn't just about likes and comments. We wanted to make sure that you always walk the walk, that you truly believe in impact, that you carry these messages with you before and after and during something like a pandemic. So we put it together very quickly. We partnered with 15 different people. We started to put the messages out there. And basically the call to action was that we were asking various communities and various people to share with us how they've received or extended kindness to someone, or how, even through a conversation and not just a physical act. And in a very, very short period of time, I think it was in about 2.5 weeks, we saw engagement from over 2 million people who actively participated in the campaign. Thousands and thousands and thousands of stories were shared. And I think one thing that we're all very, very proud of was the proactive outreach from people who weren't even influencers, who weren't even a part of the campaign, some of whom had very, very big names. One person that I can mention is he's President Obama and Oprah Winfrey's chef, and was for a very, very long time. So he was one of the people who reached out to us, in a number of others. And the commentary that we were getting was, one, they wanted to also participate in the campaign and do their part. And two, a few people said to us they'd never seen a brand color outside the lines like that. So it was something that we did from a completely genuine and spontaneous standpoint. We just wanted to amplify the voices. We wanted to promote kindness, and we wanted to show the power of it and the influence that it can have on someone's life, even in such an unpredictable time like the pandemic. So very, very powerful. And both of these campaigns that we just shared with you guys are, have gotten a number of accolades and awards. And it just goes to show you that Visible as a brand, and also, more importantly, the people behind the brand, the people who work at the company, walking the walk is really important to us. The bottom line of the business obviously is always very, very important, and also in the back of our minds, but you can make meaningful impact and really scale your brand, especially when it comes to reputation management and building the reputation of the brand, when you do these things, and when you put together these tactics and campaigns in a thoughtful not just strategic, but most importantly, thoughtful and genuine way. So these are just two examples that we're incredibly proud of. So now we're going to share one more example with you, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So this campaign, which was led by one of our colleagues who leads experiential at Visible, was called Red Rocks Unpaused. Again, this took place at the height of the pandemic, where every brand was trying to figure out how they were going to connect with their consumers and implement or adapt to the new times, to our new normal, and how they were going to put together new strategies around the new ways in which consumers were absorbing data and information and content and interacting with brands. And experiential marketing has been a big part of Visible from day one. And, because as a digital brand, you still have to interact with your consumers or with various communities we call it IRL, in real life way. So it had been a heart of the brand from day one. Obviously, we couldn't do an in real life event. So Red Rocks Unpaused was a virtual event unlike any other. It was a first of its kind, immersive, I would say, all digital streaming experience where the event it was a music event throughout 3 days. And basically it took place at one of the most iconic entertainment venues in the world, which is Red Rocks. And over the course of 3 nights, we brought together a number of musicians from various genres. So alternative and Americana, hip hop, and country. And we basically had performances, but the more unique part of this experience was that audiences were able to interact with the artists who were performing and with the event in all new ways through all new technology. So you got to choose the camera angle from which you got to watch a show. If you posted something on social about one of the artist performances, as you see in the photo to the right, your messaging would show up on the rocks in the venue. So the artists really, really got to experience that interaction and the energy of the audience in the venue with them, and the audience got to experience the same thing. So it all goes back to emotional depth and knowing who you're speaking with, how you're speaking to them, and how you're engaging with them. And the reason that we had artists from various genres is because as a wireless brand, it's not a one size fits all kind of a thing and set of tactics. You have to make sure that you're speaking to and engaging with various communities, various interest groups. People have different interests and different hobbies and likes and dislikes and different experiences, all of which you have to be aware of. So through all of our tactics and all the experiences that we create, we ensure that we're not just narrowing our focus to one thing or one set of interests. So Red Rocks Unpaused was another example of that. And one more thing that I should highlight, other than the selection for artists with the genres of the music and what our audiences like to hear, just like our core influencer strategy, it was really important for us to partner with artists who walk the walk with impact. So everyone from Nathaniel Rateliff, who is a huge activist, especially in the Denver area, to Meg Thee Stallion, who is a huge activist with the BLM movement. Every single one of them walks the walk with impact. So we were really proud to partner with them. So as you guys can tell, all experience is a huge and imperative part of the brand at every touch point and for every level. And we're really proud of the work that we've done. And oftentimes, like I mentioned earlier, the experience part of it and the connection part of it can really get lost as you're moving, in your day-to-day, you're moving very, very quickly from one thing to the next. But we always take the time to stop ourselves and ask, what does this mean for the consumer? Who are we speaking with and how are we speaking to them? And what are they going to take away from this body of work that we're putting into the market? So we're proud of the work that we've done. We're proud of the company that we're building, and it has been a pleasure to be able to share just some pieces of our story with you guys today. Thank you.
No, that was great, Pearl and Taylor, both. And just one question in terms of, with all this engagement that you're getting, how are you, obviously you're reaching so many different people and you're getting amazing results. But then how are you able to, maybe track that and to make it, leverage that into be more performance driven? Is there anything that you can do for that, or that you are doing?
So I think you have to recognize that every single tactic and lever has a purpose, right? So when it comes to our paid media strategies, most of it, while it's meant to build awareness, most of it is performance driven. But I would also tell you, kudos to my team. I think some of them are on this call today. We're really, when it comes to tactics that help you build brand reputation and reputation management and building credibility with the consumers and trust, which, as you know, are some of the hardest things for a brand to establish, maintain, and build, it ultimately ties back to performance and conversions for us. And we, from day one of the things that we did was that I was telling you earlier, the brand was built on a notion of community and impact and social good. One of the very first thing that we did was that we launched an accelerator program that supports social impact startups before we ever launched a product with Visible, the wireless carrier. That's something that you almost never, ever, ever hear, right? Because usually it's the other way around. Usually you have to have the funding for it. But we deliberately did that because it was really, really important to our founders and also our employees. But it just helped us establish the trust and the credibility with our consumers early on. But once again, you just have to know and be aware of what the purpose of your channels are and how they all work together within your overall marketing ecosystem. And I know this is an old school term, but for omni-channel marketing, how they all work together and how they're ultimately supporting each other in carrying those conversions for you, educating the consumer, like Taylor was saying earlier, but then bringing them into the Visible fold.
Great. Well, that's you guys are doing some really great stuff, and I really appreciate you sharing that with everyone today. So thank you so much, Taylor and Pearl.